You are Locked On Clippers Postcast. Part of Locked On Sports Los Angeles on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up? Welcome to the Locked On Clippers Postcast on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel, the place to hang out when every game is done. I'm Pete Fox, covering sports in LA, dating back to 2007 for ESPN LA and NBC Sports Radio. You can also listen to us wherever you find your podcasts on the Locked On Clippers podcast feed. Tonight's episode of the Locked On Clippers Postcast brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is a little over a week away, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win that bet, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Well, the Clippers with a nice win in Charlotte. They were clutch when they needed to be, the final 5 minutes of the game, which is considered clutch time. So no better time to be clutch than during clutch time. Norm Powell was the man once again. That was nice to see. As far as Kawhi Leonard in the game, late in the game, final 4 or 5 minutes, they had him on the floor. Also a positive, encouraging step for the Clippers. This was a game that could have gotten away from them. The Hornets were undermanned and they kind of played with that chip on their shoulder. There was a moment in the fourth, just prior to that 5-minute mark, when it becomes clutch time, where Harden and Norm were on the bench, and the Hornets got back into it, down by 2 at that point. But right after that, the Clippers got Norm on the floor, Harden a few minutes later, and then Kawhi came back in. They put their foot on the throttle and finished off the Hornets. The final 112-104, unless there is a bucket in the final 2 seconds, which there is not. So a nice win for the Clippers on the road. Got to feel good about that one, especially with LaMelo Ball being out. That would have been a tough loss if they blew that one, but they did not. Third quarter, I thought was interesting. I thought there was a nice, calm, confident pace to it. Then I started to think maybe it's a little too calm and a little too confident, and maybe they're a little too lackadaisical. But again, Norm Powell took over, stopped and popped from the elbow, looked sweet. The thing about Norm today was he just played with a ton of confidence, and not that he doesn't usually, but tonight he was doing just about everything. He was aggressive from jump. Now, Brian Seaman was commenting all game long on the fact that he was, proud of Norm, I guess you would say, or congratulating him, and kind of made the assumption that maybe because Norm was not elected to the All-Star team, that he might feel a little shunned and be upset by that, and it could affect his play on the floor. He said, quote, I really thought it could go either way. He could come out, do what he did tonight, have a fantastic game, scoring 27 points, going 11 of 15, which was a great night. Let's be honest. Wasn't great at the line. He was 3 of 7. The Clippers as a team were terrible from the line, but fortunately they overcame that. But with Norm not being selected as an all-star, maybe he felt a little slighted, a little upset by that. And, he could have come out and kind of dragged and not played 100%, just being frustrated and, dejected, I guess. But he didn't. He came out and put his foot on the gas and played like a pro. And that's one of the things you love about Norm Powell. And I feel like, I'm not surprised in the least by that. I don't know that Norm Powell, of course, you're going to be upset when you're having the kind of season that Norm is having. Yeah, it is worthy of being an all-star without a doubt. But to me, it doesn't feel like Norm Powell is that kind of guy that needs to be recognized as an all-star. He doesn't need the accolades. He's kind of the yeoman, he puts on his hard hat and goes to work and does the job. He's not like the superstar kind of player that is going to be petty and upset if he doesn't make the all-star team. I'm sure he is a little bit. We all would be. It makes sense. But, to me, I'm not the least bit surprised. I did not in the least bit think that it could go either way. Like Norm's going to come out and, put up 9 and shoot 8 for 20 on a night like this. No, that's not who Norm is. And look, the Clippers have dominated this Hornets team. Harden has dominated this Hornets team. He's 24-3 against the Hornets after tonight's win. So the thing about it that really kind of frustrated me early on, in spite of the fact that the first half was very easy, this was a really tight game from beginning to end. It just felt pretty close until like the clutch time of the fourth quarter, the final 5 minutes. The Clippers just put their foot on the throttle and finished it off. Said, all right, let's sprint to the finish line. And they did. That was nice to see. But back and forth all night long, it was, pretty close. The Hornets never really let the Clippers get out of reach. The longest run of the game, 10 points. I believe that was the Clippers. They were tied 6 times. They had 11 lead changes, and the Clippers' biggest lead of the night was 11. Hornets led by only 2. The differential of this game could have gone in favor of the Hornets. And there were 2 categories that just did not go the way of the Clippers tonight. And one of them, and this is a number that they have been doing very well with, and that was second chance points. And up until that 5-minute mark of the fourth, the Hornets were dominating in second chance points. The Clips got it going. Zoo started being Zoo again in the second half and getting dunks. He had 2 or 3 putback finishes that were just, solid, aggressive, get the rebound and throw it down. Inside looks for Zoo were not there in the first half, but he got it going in the second half. And that was another big factor in this win for the Clippers. But in the end, the second chance points, Charlotte won that one 17-13. But for most of the night, they were dominating that category. As for points in the paint, a very even night. Again, ultimately, because of play late in the game during that clutch time, Clippers won that category, points in the paint, 60-58, and they edged Charlotte in fast break points, 17-11. So the turnovers, very good in the first half, but then really got away from them in the second half. And we'll get to that after the break. We'll also get to the defensive issue for the Clippers that was really, really frustrating me for a good portion of the night. And I was just thinking that cannot be enough effort on defense, especially in the lane. And more than anything, I don't think there's any way that the Clippers can continue to be that lackadaisical in the lane. They have to show more effort in the paint. Like if they keep doing that all game long, they're going to lose. But I believe that they would figure it out. They're going to figure it out. They're going to up their effort, and it's going to get better, and they'll win this game. But there was a point in time in the first half where I was like, this come on, let's go. Let's get it together. So we'll talk about that after the break, and also the turnovers. Yeesh. It's the Locked On Clippers postcast on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel, the place to hang out when every game is done. We appreciate you allowing us to be your source for your team every day. Of course, we come on right after the game here on the postcast every game and break it down for you. Tonight's episode of the Locked On Clippers postcast is brought to you by Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back. Taxes were worrying and waiting. I'm just reading the script. Taxes were waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting and wondering and worrying some more. Yes, been down that road. As I've mentioned before, taxes for me is a kryptonite. Oh, I just lock up and freeze when we start talking about taxes. Oh, it's a good thing we have a tax professional in our family. Now taxes are about matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives you taxes, who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day and other important things. An expert who will find your every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything that you need with 100% accuracy, all so you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worrying. The most important thing. Now, this is taxes. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live, full service, real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantee. It's the Locked On Clippers postcast on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel. 112-104, the final in Charlotte as the Clippers get back-to-back wins. 28-20 now, 11-12 on the road, while the Hornets fall to 12-33, 8-17 at the Spectrum Center there in Charlotte. They didn't play like a 12-win team. Played with a lot of energy, a lot of aggression. And again, this was with a ton of dudes out. Trey Mann was out. LaMelo Ball was out. I don't know this team that well, but they had a bunch of their big guys not playing tonight at all. But other guys stepped up and had big nights. Miles Bridges, a huge night, 38 minutes, 12 of 27, only 1-3 on 8 attempts, 2 of 3 from the line, but 27 points, 9 boards and 6 assists. So he played well. Josh Green, 37 minutes, 4 of 4 from the floor for 10 points. And Veselic Micic, 31 minutes, 7 of 12, 2 threes for 20 points. So they all played hard. And early in the game, the Clippers were not doing a good job of defending the lane. Did you happen to see how open that lane was? How easy the layups were coming? I don't know about this, Toby. Isn't that aggressive to say they played poorly? Maybe a little lazy at times. Maybe they were underestimating what the Hornets were bringing to the floor because they were undermanned. But I don't know that they were playing poorly. Another exclamation from Toby. Very bad game. Okay. To me, a win is a win is a win. You know, you take the W and move on. There were some bright spots in this game. It wasn't the Spurs complete win that we saw a couple of nights ago. I'll agree with you on that. But to say it was a very bad game in a win, that to me just doesn't add up. But yeah, the defense early in the game wasn't there in the paint at all. Just wide open layup after layup after layup, dunk, dunk, dunk. The good news is, from a Clippers perspective, that the Hornets 3-point shooting was atrocious. So they did the Clippers a favor there. They didn't have to guard the perimeter all that much. They got it going a little bit in the third, right up until about that 5-minute mark that we've talked about. But they were shooting it right around 16 to 20%. They finished the night at 23%, 7 of 30. Just a rough night shooting the 3-ball for them, mainly because, I think they didn't need to all that much. Once the Clippers started to play defense in the paint and guard the paint, they had to start shooting some threes, and they made a handful. They did okay. At times there were some big ones that kind of felt like a dagger of sorts, like, well, that was a tough one to swallow, but the Clippers just answered. And that was one of the nice things to see. They kept responding every time the Hornets would bang down one of those three. Good night shooting for them from the floor, 54%, 44 of 81, and from beyond the arc, 39%, 11 of 28. But that free throw line stat was one you want to look away from. Nothing to see here. 13 of 20 for 65%. Norm, 3 of 7. Like, I've never seen Norm miss that many free throws. Harden was perfect. Derek Jones, 0 for, and Kawhi was 1 of 2. Kawhi had another good night. He played 28 minutes. Supposedly, they have removed the minute restriction, but to see him in there late in the fourth quarter, that was nice. He had 21 points, 9 boards, and again, just was an impact player during some stretches where the Clippers couldn't find a lot of rhythm coming out of the half. Brian Shaw commented to Lauren on the sideline that there's just too much standing around. Just watching whoever had the ball. Kawhi, Norm, Derek Jones, Porter Jr., and of course Harden. A lot of just standing around. But there was also times where, I guess tonight you could look at this game and go, this was just an up and down, inconsistent performance from them. Because there were plenty of times where the ball movement was nice, but it didn't continue. It was very sporadic. So coming out of the half, Derek Shaw wanted to see more ball movement and not enough offensive work on the boards or offensive rebounding work from Ivica Zubac on the offensive boards. He got that going a little bit, but in the end, it wasn't great. He only had 2 offensive boards coming off a night on Monday. What's today? Friday. So Wednesday in San Antonio, where he pulled down offensive boards like crazy. He had 9 offensive boards and just a good night for him rebounding, part of a huge night for the Clippers in general on the boards 2 nights ago when they out rebounded the Spurs 57-30. Tonight they had 45 rebounds versus 42. So a pretty even night rebounding for the Clippers and Charlotte Hornets in a 112-104 win for LA. Let's get to the bucket list, the top 5 or so buckets of the night. For number 5, Derek Jones Jr. tipped a ball to himself right about half court, caught the ball, bounced, dribbled, penetrated, and dunked. It was just a really sweet athletic play. Came at the 7:20 mark of the first. It made it 11-6 Clippers. They jumped out early on the Hornets and kind of, played a little loose in the beginning of the game, which was nice to see. And I was looking at the statistics at the end of one. They were right around 50%. And I felt like that's a good number for the Clippers to start with. That's a statistic that I think they should shoot for and try to achieve on a nightly basis. If they can shoot 50% in the first quarter, I think it's a perfect way to start. It doesn't give the opposition the opportunity to pull away. It also doesn't give them the opportunity to pull away, but it does give them the chance, the looseness, I guess you would say, to just kind of feel this game out and see what we've got. So I'm kind of paying attention to that. If they can shoot around 50% in the first quarter, I think that's a good look for them. For number 4, Kawhi had an ISO 3 at the 4:53 mark of the second to make it 40-32. And it was just one of those Kawhi Leonard being Kawhi Leonard buckets. He had a good defender on him. The guy was up, as close as he could be without fouling and, had him guarded. But Kawhi dribbled, stepped back, buried it. It was nice to see. Again, that was at the 4:53 mark. For number 3, Terrence Mann had a 3. And this was part of the time where they just had the ball moving around. They were moving it around the perimeter. And it was right at the 1 minute mark of the second. So Kawhi's 3 was at the 4:53 mark of the second. That's what I said, right? So at the 1 minute mark, Terrence Mann hit a 3. It made it 49-46. It broke a tie, and it would be Terrence Mann's only 3 of the night on 2 3 attempts. So 50% from beyond the arc for him. For number 2, Norm had a 3 at the 6:33 mark of the third. It made it 71-61. Norm started the game 7 of 8. He was on fire. Finished the night 11 of 15, 2 of 3 from beyond the arc, 2 of 4 rather. And for number 1, Kawhi Leonard, another 3, more nice passing. It came at the 10:38 mark of the fourth, and it gave the Clippers a 90-81 lead. Moving the ball well is always good for the Clippers. Tonight, we saw it in spurts here and there. More than anything, I felt like there was just also mixed in with that a little too much one-on-one. It didn't feel like ISO ball. It just felt like a little too much one-on-one. Like, all right, I'm just going to penetrate. The good news is when that happened with Norm, when he had the ball in his hands and he was penetrating, he was scoring. And he did that a lot. He played very aggressively, as did Amir Coffey. We'll talk about his game a little bit. And we'll get to what was the thing I teased that I teased something that I didn't touch on. What the hell was it? Oh, I love teasing. I said we were going to get into something. I didn't, and I can't remember what it is right now. So don't worry. I might remember, and we can talk about it after the break. It's the Locked On Clippers postcast. I'm Pete Fox. It's the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel. That's where you find us after every Clipper game. We come on and break it down. You can also listen wherever you find your podcasts on the Locked On Clippers podcast feed. All right, tonight's episode of the Locked On Clippers postcast also brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is a little over a week away. It's one game, two teams, but endless possibilities, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel. And during the Super Bowl, it's almost required to have a bunch of exotics going on, whether it's predicting the first touchdown, will they run the kickoff back, how many touchdown passes will each quarterback have, how many yards will each quarterback have. There's just so many fun options. You know, I always love betting on how long the national anthem's going to be. I don't bet on the coin toss. I hate that one, but I love the length of the national anthem one. Those all make the Super Bowl more exciting and way more fun. And it just feels like it's, even if you don't do those things any other time of the year, you have to do them during the Super Bowl. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to final whistle. The live betting features allow you to stay involved no matter what happens on the field. And the app is super easy and hassle-free to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win up to $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's the icing on the cake. Download the app today. Head to FanDuel.com and get started. Bet $5, and if you hit that first bet, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 59. Clippers won 12 for win number 28, back-to-back wins on this 4-game roadie that takes them from Phoenix all the way to Toronto. They said they'll be flying out of Charlotte tonight and arrive north of the border tonight, and then they'll have tomorrow off, and then they play on Sunday. As I was saying, I feel like a 50% shooting percentage in the first quarter for the Clippers is what they should shoot for, and that's what they had, 7 of 13 to start the game. Amir Coffey had a nice game, playing with a lot of aggression, hitting some threes. It wasn't a great night, but good. 10 points, 3 of 5 from the floor, 2 of 3 from beyond the arc, and perfect with the 3 points, or perfect at the line, rather, 2 of 2. I know what we were going to talk about was the turnovers. After a very solid first half across the board in the turnover department for the Clippers, I think they had 6. Finished the game with 16. James Harden had 1 in the first half, which is almost unheard of. Finished the game with 6. Now, as a whole, if James Harden has just 6 turnovers, that's fantastic. On Monday, I was raving about that. 6 turnovers for James Harden. Throw a party, right? But when you have 1 in the first half and you finish with 6, that's ugly. That's tough. And 2 of them were probably he has a lot of bad turnovers. I don't want to say the worst turnovers I've seen from him, but they were very, very ugly because he was head on head with the defender. It wasn't like he was backing someone down and, the help came over and knocked it away from him. It was face to face, and someone just stuck their hand in there and picked his pocket twice, to where he was kind of like, whoa, wait, come back. I was just like, come on, James, let's get it together. I mean, there are bad turnovers, and then there's that. It's like just awful. Trying to do a little too much, a little too fancy, and it didn't work out. But in the end, I think we have to just kind of take the win, right? 6 turnovers is a fantastic night for James Harden. There was one point, I think it was right at the end of the first half. No, it was the end of the first quarter. Porter Jr. had the ball, and this happened on Wednesday as well. It reminded me of high school. because I cover some high school games as the PA announcer here in SoCal. This is what high school kids do. If the clock is ticking down under 10 seconds at the end of a quarter, they think they've got too many moves and they're trying to be too fancy and ultimately don't get a shot off. And that happened to Porter Jr. tonight and on Wednesday. And I love Porter Jr. and I think he's the most athletic guy on the team. It's surprising to me that he is unable to get off a shot under 10 seconds. He did get it off, but it was an air ball. I was like, just give it up to Harden, right? That's where Harden shines. He can find a look in 10 seconds as time is expiring. And more often than not in that situation, he'll draw a foul. So it's like, know your place, Porter. You can live in the paint above the rim occasionally from beyond the arc, but that dribble drive, trying to find a look in the final 5-10 seconds of a quarter is not your strong suit. But he's a fantastic player. At a good night tonight, 3 of 9 for 7 points, contributed on the boards with 4 rebounds, 3 assists, and no steals, no blocks. So, a decent night for him off of the bench. Amir Coffey, 24 minutes, again, 3 of 5. He had 10 points, 2 steals, and 2 assists to go with 1 rebound. We haven't talked about Zubac's night, which was slow to get started in the first half. Wasn't getting a lot of those easy buckets. Those offensive rebound putbacks just weren't there for him. And I don't know exactly why that is. Maybe the effort, wasn't quite there. He didn't feel the intensity of this one. But he got it going in the second half. Finished 7 of 10 with 14 points and 11 rebounds, but only 2 offensive boards. He had 1 assist and 1 steal, just 1 turnover for him. So he did a nice job clogging up the lane, got some meaningful buckets when the Clippers needed them. And, that's what you need from Zoo. You need him to pull those rebounds down and put them back, get, easy buckets when you're fighting to hold on to a small lead or extend a lead or something like that. That's where I feel like Zubac is at his best. And obviously on the boards, he is such a huge factor for the Clippers. But as we talked about a couple of nights ago, they don't have anybody behind him. When Zoo is on the bench for rest, there's nobody to come in and fill those shoes. I mean, occasionally it's Mo Bamba, but I don't know that Mo Bamba's a different kind of player. He's a big man who likes to shoot threes. And he didn't even play tonight. And he's definitely not the paint presence that Ivica Zubac is. So the point was well taken a couple of nights ago from a couple of people in the comments that, the Clippers definitely need somebody there to, fill up the paint when Zubac is on the bench. That's going to be hopefully something they can acquire as they head towards the playoffs. But ultimately, this game, as I said, up and down, inconsistent. There were spurts of good passing. There were spurts of good defense, but there was also times when the lane was way too wide open. There was way too much standing around from the Clippers, as Brian Shaw talked about coming out of the half. And, they weren't really playing with the intensity that you would like to see. There's a lot of one-on-one. And, fortunately, when you got Harden and Kawhi and Norm Powell, that's not the end of the world. But they're just a better team when the ball is moving. It started to move more in the second, and that was good. They kept it going in the third. As I said, I felt like the third was an interesting quarter. They played with a calm pace and a calm confidence. Maybe it was a tad bit too lackadaisical, but more than anything, most importantly of this game, they finished strong during clutch time. They ratcheted it up, got it going, and put the Charlotte Hornets away for a 112-104 win. So that's all we look at in the end. How did they finish? Strong. Did they win? Yes, comfortably. 112-104, back-to-back wins now, 28-20. On to Toronto. They'll play them noon 30 on Sunday, and I'll be here on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel to break it down for you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Appreciate the comments. And of course, you can download the podcast wherever you find your podcast on the Locked On Clippers podcast feed. We appreciate you allowing us to be your source for your team every day. Have a good night. We will talk on Sunday.